Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. We are back. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I have a fun topic tonight because, we joke 1,000 times that I coach and I've never played the game. But the point is, after every win, loss, at bat, game, everybody wants to analyze their performance, right? And I think sometimes from a coach's perspective, it's probably impossible for me to think what a player's going through when they do it. Like I might say, oh, it's okay, we'll see you tomorrow, or oh, you got to go look at film, you got to do this. How about we ask the player what it's like to analyze your performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the person, and I'm gonna answer this from like the perfectionist point of view because that's always how I was. I think, after a game, it's so easy to remember all the stuff you did wrong, and we very easily forget all the stuff we did right. And as my dad, you can attest to that. After a game, I could have been 3 for 4. If we lost, guess which at bat I'm talking about after the game? The one that I got out, because I think, you know, when you're a high performer and when you expect a lot out of yourself, we nitpick those little situations where we could have done something better. And in a game of failure like softball, there's always things you can do better, which is where this becomes really tricky because your team could win 20-0, but I guarantee you weren't perfect during that game. And there's very few sports where you're ever going to be perfect. So I think it's just finding the balance of holding yourself accountable while also not over analyzing yourself to the point where you almost like beat yourself up over it.
So it's human nature. I mean, whether it's a bad email or a bad comment on social media or a bad at bat, we tend to forget about all the good stuff when there's one negative thing we can focus on. So that being said, how do you use this as a strength?
I mean, I think it's always a good thing when you self-reflect, right? Like it'd be a different story if let's say I'm playing basketball and I missed every shot I took and I just went, oh well, afterward. And like, that's not good either. And I'm sure there are people like that out there, but I think it's good to analyze yourself in the sense of like, okay, like from a logical standpoint, what did I do good this game? What do I need to work on? Let me use that in practice this next week, or like use that as a focus for my next game. I think that's where the good comes out of it to say, this is what I need to do better. This is what I'm going to work on. This is what I'm going to focus on. And this is the output I want for, my next time to perform.
So there needs to be a level of this is good because it creates a level of discomfort. Like
Mhm.
theoretically, you should never be super satisfied. But
Yeah.
but but there's obviously times you can live with what you've done. I mean, you should live with what you've done all the time if you put the effort into it. But
Well, I
the,
think I think being an athlete is so interesting though because we hold ourselves to a different standard than we hold everybody else. And that's just a life thing too. I think for, people out there who are high performers will understand this. Like the way we talk to ourselves is not the way we talk to other people. Like if you think about the way you speak to yourself in your head, you would never speak to somebody else like that. And that's like big time in sports too, because how many times have you heard a girl strike out and say, "Oh my gosh, I suck." When their teammate strikes out, they're not going, "Oh my gosh, you suck." That's not how we talk to each other, you know?
well, I'm looking now because Mike Tomlin, one of my favorite coaches, because I'm a Steeler fan, always has the phrase "the standard is the standard." And well, what's that mean? Well, it means to maintain a high. I'm reading to maintain a high level of consistent performance and accountability. You have to worry about everything you do and not worry about all the external factors that go into a game or a performance. So, as long as you're doing everything in your power the result may not go your way, but you've kept yourself to the standard that you talked about.
Yeah, and this may be an unpopular opinion. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to like be really analytical after the game. Like, that's always the type of player I was. After the game, maybe the next day I'm in the cage and I'm like, okay, this is what I was feeling. This is what I need to fix. In game, there's like very little room for that. So, for example, like if you're a hitter out there who swings through one pitch and it's like, what is wrong with my swing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is wrong with your swing. That's just the game. Like if you're playing basketball and you miss one shot, there's not something wrong with your form. So I think you have to be very careful about like the level of detail like you're paying attention to analytically while you're in a game. And something I always tell my players is like focus on something that's going to help you get the outcome you want, but isn't the actual outcome itself. So, like for golf, it could be okay, focus on something with your follow through, but don't focus on where you want the ball to end up, if that makes sense.
Now, 100% two things. On our team in high school, we always joke that the other team's trying too. And as dumb as that sounds, but that's why you might have swung through it. Did they change speeds? Did they move it out of a zone that you're not as hot at, as far as making contact? Like that's okay. And it's okay to try to analyze what might come next, but you can't analyze the mechanics. You have to analyze like just the battle at the moment. As far as golf, there's so many things I was telling you in a round of golf. I mean, sometimes you don't even play in the same conditions as the people you're competing against based on the time of the day and the shots and the bad breaks. But I came to an epiphany where after a round of golf, everybody'd ask, "Oh, how'd you do today?" And it's like everybody just wants to say how the score they shot, and then they want to talk about all the bad things afterwards. And nobody really cares. It's just like a vent session. So a couple of us, and when I was coaching high school golf, I got them to say the same thing. I'd trick them afterwards and say, "Well, how you do today?" And kids will say, or I taught them to say, "Well, I shot a 75." "Oh, well, how'd you do that?" "Well, I missed the putt for a 74." And that's all we said. Like there's nothing left to analyze. Like you grinded it out, you tried, you hit every shot to the best of your ability. You selected what clubs you were going to select based on wind speed or greens or that. And at the end of the day, when you finally put the ball in the hole on the 18th hole, that's your score. Like there's nothing else to worry about.
Well, it's
And
so true.
there's
And
so
it's
much, it's like I mean, softball is so comparable to that in so many ways.
Well, I was just gonna say, growing up, there were times when we needed a laugh when I'd be like, "Yeah, we lost," and someone say, or you'd say, "Well, how'd that happen?" "I don't know. They scored more runs than we did." It's just what
Just
happened.
happens. Yeah.
And no, it's just so funny because I was actually gonna turn it to you to say, like after a round of golf, what was your like internal thought process though? Because I know growing up, your party trick was like you knew every hole of golf you'd ever played and you remembered your score on every single one.
The trouble with golf is so right off the bat, there's no
The bat or the club, you mean?
right off the club. Yeah. There's no teammates or anybody else to blame, right? So when you're done with a round of golf, I think you really have to just not even think about it. Like there's nothing left to think about it. And now in my heyday, I might go to the range afterwards and work a few things out while it's fresh in my mind. Nowadays, I don't do any of that. And you might go hit some balls the next day, but there's nothing wrong after a performance to not even analyze it and just worry about it. It's almost like the pulling off rule. You could take 12 hours or you might not have the luxury of 24 hours to just not worry about it. It's not your whole identity. And I'm saying that if you tried your best
Yeah.
and you had a good attitude and you were the best teammate you could be and everything in your power you did well, but you didn't get the result you wanted, sometimes there's just nothing to analyze sometimes until the next morning.
Well, I think we've all been there too, where we lose a game, but we lost it ourselves. Like they didn't win it, we lost it because we didn't control what we could control, which is very different from you put everything out there, you put everything on the line, and they just get the best of you that day. Like that's a very different feeling at the end of a game, match, round, whatever you're playing. To your point, if you did everything you could in terms of controllables and you just didn't get the result you wanted. But I also think it's really interesting how players tend to be really self-critical about technical things after the game, but we don't like to reflect on our emotional performance during the
Right.
game. We
Right.
don't like to say, "Oh, my attitude could have been better." Or we don't like to say, "I wasn't a good teammate today." That discussion never comes up. It's what's wrong with my technical that made us lose this game. It's never, wow, I really need to control my emotions next time.
But it's funny. So to me, again, I coach high school softball. I'm not at a super high level in the world of softball, but after games, when we circle up, I always ask if the players have anything to say. And, sometimes leaders say things, but nobody ever says anything about anybody's technical aspect of the game. Like if anybody speaks up, it's all based on emotion or attitude.
Mhm.
And then so I say something, follow up on emotion and attitude, and then we leave. So when you analyze your performance, are you analyzing like technically what you could do better? Are you analyzing the missed opportunities based on attitude and emotion?
Mhm. Yeah, and that frustrates me as a coach because when you come out after a game and you talk about something that in theory you could control every single time, why are we talking about that? Because that should be the one thing, like our energy level, our attitude, that should be given every day, maybe give or take a day because things happen. But we should be able to focus on the more technical aspects of the game in a talk like that. But sometimes it's, oh, our energy started really strong and then it got low, and things like that.
And again, from a coaching perspective, I'll use a recent experience. It sometimes there's nothing you have to say. I mean, obviously, we made this New York State championship this year, the final game. We lose 3-1. It's a great game. Afterwards, energy was up, attitude was good. You know, technically we missed a few at bats, but at the end of the game, you just lost 3-1. Like, talk about the positives. You lose in a high emotional situation like that. Nobody wants you to talk too long. And it's okay to just get in and out, boom, point A, point B, point C, and be done. It's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to act like you're the smartest person in the room or have all the answers because sometimes there's just no answers.
No, and I'm gonna be honest, like when you're a player after a game like that, you're just in your own thoughts anyway.
Yeah.
Like the coach, save it for the next day when they're more receptive. Because I know for me as a player, I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, I could have done this better and I could have done that better, and I'm so frustrated and I'm so in my emotions right now. I'm not level-headed. I'm not lit, like I'm not receiving anything you're saying. So when coaches sit there and talk at them for 15 minutes, it's not really being received in the way that they want it to.
Did you ever watch Charlie Brown growing up?
No.
Okay, Charlie Brown's a funny cartoon, and I'm gonna try to find a clip because whenever they were at school, they were in their own world. So anytime the teacher talked, all you heard was wah 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 wah. Like,
Mhm.
so I figure at the end of the game, when it's finally time for me to talk, I have 30 seconds probably. 60's probably giving myself way too much credit. I have like 30 seconds to get a point or two across. And then every one of those players just hear wah 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 wah. So if you're outlaying the whole plan for the next practice or the next day or the rest of the season, no one gives a crap because they're not even hearing you because they're in their own heads.
Or like if you're trying to be a good teammate or like a good coach player, maybe instead of saying something right after the game, text them 3 hours later when they're laying alone thinking about it and it's consuming
Yeah.
everything they have. Like maybe text them and say, "Hey, I know it was a really rough day for you today, but I have confidence in you and we're gonna get after it tomorrow." Like talk about
Yeah.
being received. That's how like it's
And
gonna be received. But
I know, luckily, I'm part of a pretty good program where you have a lot more wins than losses. But the losses to me is when you have to come back the next day at practice with the most energy. And
mhm.
not like so bobbleheadily, like everything's gonna be great, but you have to just come back like we're playing softball today. Like this is
Yeah.
awesome. Sun's shining, play some high energy music, do whatever. But you just have to rebound. Like sometimes there's no analyzing, it's just moving on.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Yeah, I think it's a tough topic. It's really hard to do. I think it's something you do in life too. Like, think about how much time you spend thinking about things you said or things you did that other people aren't even thinking about anymore. Like, we all have one of those. So when I'm like, think about how many words you say in a day. If we say one sentence, we're like, ah, I shouldn't have said that. And we think about it all day. I'm not thinking about anything anybody else said. I'm just thinking about what I said. And if everybody does the same, like, we spend so much time overanalyzing every single thing that we do.
The average person, and I've been there. I feel like being older now, I'm more aware of it. We spend way too much time thinking about other people, and
Mhm.
they're not, trust me, they are not thinking about us.
No, and like we could get all into it in terms of like over analyzing, like how do I look? What am I wearing? Like how am I coming across? What's my social media look like? We overanalyze
Yeah.
everything, but and this is gonna sound horrible. For the most part, people are just thinking about themselves, the same way like you're thinking about you. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, so I think we just have to keep that in mind too. And one exercise I did on a team I was on after a game one time is we all played horribly. And we're like, hey, do you know how so and so did today? Like, can you tell me what she did in each of her at bats? And I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, well, that's all she's thinking about right now, even though you can't tell me what she did because we're all just thinking about ourselves. And it was very eye-opening to be like, wow, I like that's being selfish as a player. I'm just thinking about myself. Or it could have been the flip side. Like, I'm so bummed I went 0 for 4. My teammate went 4 for 4 today. And we like maybe we didn't even recognize that because we're so trapped in our own thoughts that it's just not even apparent to us.
That's well, that we've talked about it before. That comes down to gratitude and
Yeah.
appreciation and awareness and maybe when it comes down to it, I mean, this whole episode's about analyzing your performance. Maybe you just analyze how you're treating your teammates at the end of the day.
Mhm.
You might be a much better player than analyzing anything else at that moment. The next day, it's time to get to work. It's time to get in the cage. It's time to, do what you got to do. But sometimes maybe we're analyzing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think my advice would kind of just be like, if you have a tough game, tough loss, like let it hurt that day. Let it hurt, but don't act on it like that same day. At least like that's kind of how I feel. If, I played a horrible game, is me going in the cage that same night when I'm like hot-headed really gonna help me? I don't know. Like maybe if I have the game the next day, that's a good op I have another game the next day, that's a good option. But for the most part, like let it hurt, go to bed, wake up, and get after it tomorrow. Because I think it becomes a lot more value add when you take an approach like that to it. And there's exceptions, but overall, that's kind of how I think about it.
In the words of your very wise sister, you wake up the next day and say, it's a great day to have a great day.
Yes, it is.
And if it doesn't work out that way, you say it again the next day and you say it
Yeah.
the next day. And eventually you will have a great day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's so appreciative when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this
Uh,
has
uh,
been awesome. I've enjoyed this one.
yeah, fantastic. Short and sweet and right to the point with a little bit of, I'll wake up tomorrow and analyze our performance on this and see how we
I'll say,
did.
right when we log off, I'm going to be thinking about everything I said. So,
Yeah. See you, Allie.
all right, bye.